has kicked 6 goals in his career to put the first nail in the West Coast coffin, and he does! He does! This could be one of the great Essendon wins of all time!
Welcome to Little Birdie Podcast, a unique look into the world of sports betting from the eyes of professionals. I'm your host, Scoot, and I'm joined by the kid, MG. Mark Goodwill, how are you, mate?
Good, Scooty, man. How are you?
Mate, I think it's going to be a cracking show. You just get that feeling. There's so much going on. Rugby league, there's lots of talk there. AFL are in COVID crisis. Top Rope Tedeschi will be back on. He's on fire at the moment. It's his favourite time of the year, State of Origin. It's absolutely massive. But how's about those Ds? The Ds, all-conquering Ds. You're finally a believer.
They're not my side or your side so far this year. They were impressive, weren't they?
Unbelievable.
Big match up last week, and they didn't disappoint from the Melbourne side of it. They were pretty much dominant, weren't they, for a side? Both sides 9-1. Yeah,
it was a blitz.
Yeah, they were. Watching the replay, they were Goodwin definitely outcoached Beveridge, I think, and it'll be interesting going forward that next time they do meet, and they'll probably meet in the finals, that Beveridge is going to have to come up with some solutions, because it's not just as simple as cutting out Liberatore in the middle. Harms did an unbelievable job. It was more than that. It was a real team performance, and they dominated the Bulldogs. So they're not flag favourites at the moment, but they probably should be on top of the ladder.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think we saw it in the Richmond Western Bulldogs game where they panicked for a quarter, the Western Bulldogs, and they probably did it for longer, I thought, in the Melbourne game. I think the Western Bulldogs need to slow the game down at certain times and push and pull a couple of levers, and maybe it's a Beveridge thing, but they need to hold the ball a little bit longer and work their way through contests to get their confidence back up. And yeah, I didn't like what I saw with the Bulldogs, but you can only play as good as they let you. But Melbourne were just dominant. They're just so organised, so structured, and I tell you what, they're going to cause Brisbane Lions massive problems this week. It's going to be no pushover for the Lions. It's going to be fantastic, and I think the AFL have got what they wanted. The game's not at NT, so it's a blessing in disguise, this COVID stuff. But I tell you what was you heard it on the intro of the show. It's been 6,115 days since Essendon won a final. There's a Twitter account with about 2,000 followers that posts every couple of days or every week. It's a mad Bombers fan out there, and he posts how long it's been since the Dons have won a final. I'll tell you what, they're 9th, Richmond 8th, and I think that West Coast is 7th. West Coast injury list is absolutely piling up. Yeah, I'll tell you what, there's a lot to like about the Dons. Their midfield is absolutely humming. Tipper's in great form, and I tell you what, looking at how they've gone this year, there's been a couple of unlucky or narrow misses. Yeah. They're a top 8 side, in my opinion.
Jeez, all right. Have been pretty strong on the Bombers the last couple of weeks, and they have won 3 in a row. And listen, going over to West Coast, beating West Coast, they were undefeated on their home deck going in. So let's not understate that win. They were also, I think, nearly 5 goals down at one stage in the run. So they've let a couple slip the other way where they've been in front. I know Hawthorn at the start of the year, remember they were up by maybe 40 points, 39 points, and got run down. So as you said, there's the live betting this year is definitely throwing up some curls. You can come from 4 to 6 goals off and run down sides. But that win over there is probably one of their best they've had in a long time, Essendon, as a team performance. I know West Coast were under the bat a bit with a few injuries, but no excuses on their home deck, and Essendon to run them down and win were very impressive. Whether they can make the final 8 is still yet to be determined, obviously, but they're still outsiders to make the final 8 for mine.
Let's have a look at the bookie wrap from last week. It's gone 7-9. It just seems to be the constant theme here. 78%. The line 5-9, and the overs was 6-9 for the season. It's 72-99 at 73%. The lines 50-90 at 51%, and then the total over 54-90, just edging slightly over there. It I guess the theme now is these Sunday results, isn't it?
Yeah, they've had, just going back and doing the stats, speaking to a bookie actually on the Saturday, I think, going into the Sundays, said, obviously Saturday's been a complete fill-up with the races combined with the sport. He said it'd be nice to get a Sunday result. And then you wake up Monday morning and they've run 3-0 again. But we've actually had 5 weeks in a row now of the 3 games being on the Sunday. The favourites have won every one, and they're actually on a 16-game winning streak on the Sunday game. So it extends just the 6 weeks. So we've only got 2 games coming up this week, obviously with the bye week, but it might be something just to figure the punters are getting the late fight backs on the Sunday. They might have to keep the powder dry earlier in the week because the bookies dominate early and then the punters are throwing a couple of jabs back late.
Let's have a look at the hits and misses from round 11. There's a graphic on the screen, but I'll read them out anyway. Collingwood were 30.5 to 19.5 in probably one of the worst matches I've ever seen. Collingwood Geelong under was a slight go there, 153 to 150.5. Brisbane and GWS was 166.5 to 170. The Gold Coast Hawthorn total moved 6 points to the under. It missed. The Bombers were fancied at the line, 30.5 to 22.5. And then the West Coast Eagles total was 163.5 back to, I think it was 139.5. And then it... I think it's...
Close 151.
Close 151. So there's a middle hit there, and you found that middle on the AFL Stings, which was good work. But, yeah, we were watching the races, weren't we? And the Belmont track sort of gave it away. Clouds started to open up, and it was time to pull the trigger, and the market really moved quickly there. The forecast rain just didn't quite hit until during the match, so those teams handled the wet conditions easily. Richmond minus 20.5 to 24.5. They got perfect conditions up there in Queensland, and then Carlton 18.5 to 12.5. A miss. It feels like Carlton's been backed every week. They are an absolute pet of the bookies at the moment. And then Fremantle Dockers, they were 30.5 to 22.5, and that was a miss. Fascinating week of AFL, and I think it's starting, well, the picture for me is starting to get a lot clearer, and there's a couple of sides that are just absolutely legless, and sadly, Hawthorn are one of them. Now, let's talk about the sting of the tail. We've got a lot to cover on the show, so I'll just keep it punching and keep rolling, but we've already mentioned how bad the Collingwood and Geelong spectacle was. Speaking of perfect conditions, the last couple of weeks, Collingwood have played in unbelievable conditions for AFL football. Even when it's a little bit, nippy outside, a little bit cold, it's pristine conditions at the MCG. And what's happening at Collingwood is awful. And Geelong have become this side that once a team starts to play defensively, they go into their shell as well and scrape out a win. I thought Geelong controlled the game for the entirety. Collingwood were never a winning chance, but the standard of game was awful. And Robbo from 360 got your go-to. I don't know why you watch the show. You're better than that.
Well, I have to for research purposes. You need all the intel coming through you, Nico. You should know that. You love watching the show, and you make me watch it every week. But disappointing with someone who is essentially got a large part of their income and their job from the output of football being entertainment based on ratings, TV rights, all the things down the line that we can talk about. But to come out and actually champion that game and make a point of it on the show a couple of nights ago is very disappointing because, if they did any kind of poll, there'd be very few people putting the yes button that's the kind of football that they want to see going forward.
So the quote we're talking about is Robbo would rather see a 51-61 scoreline rather than Geelong go out and pump Collingwood or win by 30 or 50 points in a high-scoring encounter. And my counter to that argument is I thought Richmond, Adelaide gave a bit of a yelp for half a game, but Richmond blew them off the park. And that was perfect conditions also. I'd rather see that game with the high scores involved, and I still didn't think Adelaide were much of a chance after half-time, and it was a lopsided contest. I'd rather see that game nine times out of 10 rather than what we saw on Saturday. It was abysmal, and this narrative around Robbo saying, oh, yeah, pat on the back and you've been competitive and stuff, it's just ugly. And they've crafted and changed the rules to cater for higher scoring, and then the coaches are going back the other way to save their bacon. Yeah. Well, they've got to move bucks on.
Well, we're in COVID chaos at the moment. People don't know what their left and their right hands are doing at the moment. The AFL certainly don't know, and they can't even portray the message in their media properly at the moment. We just can't have a selling point that a 60 to 50 scoreline is good for the game. No one enjoys it. People won't pay to go and watch it. I know we don't have crowds right now, but the coaches, by and large, control the scoring outcomes of games because the rules are pretty much the same. in terms of like nine teams go out, and this game can have a 200 to 220 totals, and some, like Collingwood, the last 3 weeks, their totals have been under 118 points. So it's not just a one-off game for people who want to come back and say, oh, it was a one-off game, Collingwood-Geelong, they're both low-scoring sides. We get all that. Collingwood, the last 3 weeks, their totals have not reached over 118 points. So if crowds were allowed to go, and I know Collingwood are 2-9, but who's enjoying that? No one goes and enjoys that. That's why they don't get crowds to soccer in Australia. If we want to see negative games, we'll go and watch a soccer game. I just think the AFL's got to be played in the right way, and that's why people get back on board really quickly. And Essendon's a classic example in that. You just mentioned they've gone 6,000 days without playing a final, yet they've turned the corner really quickly this year, and their fans thought they were in for a year, a bit like your Hawks.
Well, the Daggers were out for Rutten. He was coming off the back blocks. Everyone thought he'd be too defensive, and they were bagging him from the outset.
He was early. When Hurley was in the side, if you watch Hurley and isolate him, and it's been done in the media, that his first inclination when he would take a mark is to look backwards and sideways and slow play it. At some stage, someone's got into Rutten's ear and said, listen, we want to play an attacking style, and we want what the fans love. And the players enjoy it more. The energy's far greater.
Well, you don't second guess yourself.
Correct. And you'll make mistakes, and that's fine, and they can pin it on they've got some young players and stuff like that. But the brand of football they're playing at the moment is watchable, not just by Essendon's supporters, but AFL fans. And I just think, other teams, and especially like Collingwood, Buckley's just got to change his thought process. And there's plenty of examples that you see on the weekend where they could have taken the ball, split the game open in the middle to go his side bottom, all great ball users, and they decided the negative option. So it's obviously the message coming out of Collingwood, and hopefully on the back end of the year, you'll see a change in the Collingwood play.
The next, I guess, sting of the tail is, it's professional athletes, and I think there's been much talk over the last couple of days about Osaka withdrawing, and all of a sudden Jack Riewoldt has now come out and said that he won't be a part of the hubs with this new COVID hub proposal, and the players don't want to have a year from last year. And I think they're probably entitled to not live out of a suitcase and have their lives completely thrown over the place. But I guess with their high salaries, there comes some sort of sacrifice.
Yep.
And there needs to be some sort of professionalism. And I guess if Jack Riewoldt doesn't play, there's probably someone else that'll fill the void, and maybe Callum Jones is the player that subs in if Jack Riewoldt doesn't want to comply with the hub life. But I guess what's on our doorstep now is this Naomi Osaka thing, and I feel sorry for her, but you've got a different opinion.
Well, I just think, there's always two sides to most stories, and you can champion either cause. You've been having your dash at the political courses this year with me, and I don't want to get involved, but just in talking about pro athletes in general, and this week we've come up with Osaka as being obviously the head storyline, and the AFL won't be far behind him. And what you said about Jack Riewoldt, his motivations in life are probably a little bit different right now. So he should come across when he's championing his cause as that's my personal opinion. And it's not for the team because, if you interviewed someone like Callum Jones who just played, his second game. Desperate to play. And his lifestyle would be different. And if you said, listen, you've got to go in the hub for the next 2 months maybe or 3 months to complete this season, I'm sure he's putting his hand up to go. But if Jack doesn't want to go, again, that's your decision. No one is forcing you. There's no gun to your head. If you want to be a pro athlete, then that is part of your job. And if it dictates for you to go and travel, then that's what you got to do. The players did it last year, and did they come out surviving, Nico? Did anything happen to them? All survived, all safe, all got paid.
There was a couple of whoopsies in there.
Yeah, but by and large, all players come out okay. They're all playing this year. Yeah. Nothing happened. So, it's not the end of the world.
But it's a mental toll. And I think
100%.
Someone like Naomi Osaka, she's achieved a lot in a very short time. And what's the mental toll on that? And you just don't know what's going on in her personal life. And I guess it's really dangerous to speculate. Like, does anyone know what's happened in my personal life for the last 12 months? But still, people are going to offer opinion and have an opinion.
I do.
Some of the vulture responses from guys like Piers Morgan and all this press, I don't blame them. And you see Nick Kyrgios, I'm actually a big fan of him. And you've got some idiot asking you a question that probably the bloke just asked before. He hasn't listened to the answer. Like some of these dweebs that are journalists, they just make their crust on this sensationalism crap, and the mainstream media is now just an absolute sewer. So I actually think most of the press after-match press conferences are absolute garbage anyway. So I'm actually in her corner big time. And like the long-term effect for Osaka is she's going to lose sponsors and she'll lose prize money. So there'll be the natural attrition. So if Naomi doesn't want to participate, fine, but. I'll put this one to you, okay? So the AFL and NRL, you don't know what's coming here. Do you think that the game is better for Indigenous players? It's dream time at the moment. The NRL, you've seen that like amazing ad. You see how good Tipper is and all these players, how good Franklin was. Do you think the AFL and NRL are better for having Indigenous players in the game? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, the second part of this question is, how many Indigenous players would continue to play in AFL and NRL if they were forced to do mandatory presses? This is a hypothetical. So if Buddy and if Tipper all had to go and face the press after every game like Osaka does, how many do you think would still be in the game?
Well, the difference between... Well, I would say yes, because it's part of being a professional, okay? So, you want to go to the negative side and protect the players who want to bitch and moan basically about it, get overpaid for what they do, because they can go and, if they just play tennis or play AFL or play NRL, they can go and play club for nothing and no one will care. There's no social media, there's no pressure, and you can be the best in your game. If you just do it for the love and you don't want to do it for the financial gain, then go and play. The media will leave you alone, trust me.
But the game's poorer for it. Cyril Rioli walked away.
The next person will step up, correct?
Cyril Rioli walked away from the game.
And the
AFL's poorer for it.
Did the game survive?
The game survived.
The game goes on, correct.
But Hawthorn are poorer for it. As a fan, I'm poorer for it.
Buddy Franklin's one of the best players to ever play the game, correct? He's in most people's top 5 or 10.
Never done much media.
Correct. But when he leaves the game in the next 1 to 3 years, the game goes on, I mean, unfortunately, the AFL lost Adam Goodes, one of the champions in the last 20 years.
Look at what the media did to him.
100%. I know that was a bit different, but in terms of and hopefully they will get him back into the game. But, players move on. It's the sport survives and the players are cycled through, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm saying is 100%, and I'm sure many wouldn't cope if they have to do media every time they play a game. The difference between an individual sport and a team sport is they can share it around, correct?
Yeah.
So they are asked to do it. Players do interviews at halftime walking off the ground. They do them after the game. They do them in the change rooms, not just the mainstream media that you see. You see how many reporters are in a room of an AFL game after the game, radio, TV and everything. Some players do up to 10 to 15 interviews before they hit the showers. So that's part of their obligation, Nico. You can't put your hand up and sign a 3-4 year deal for anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a year and say, I'm just going to play football. The TV rights don't demand that. They don't want silence. They need to fill the 24-hour channel that they've got as Fox Footy. And part of that, the fans want to see the stars. Do you want to just watch Robbo and Wheatley rabble on 12 hours a day on that channel? Watch it. They want to mix up. So you've got to interview players. You've got to have content. And the fans want to see the players speak as part of it. They want to know that they know them. You know what I mean? And so Osaka's exactly the same.
So do you think, going forward, do you think she should be able to opt in and out of presses? Or if she doesn't comply, she should be run out of the game?
It's not run out of the game.
She just opts out.
You're sensationalising it. It's her choice, correct?
Yes.
So she's not forced to be a professional tennis athlete?
No.
Okay.
So she's out of the game. If she doesn't comply to the big business of tennis and sit through the presses that she hates and Kyrgios hates and all these players don't like, they do enough social media stuff anyway, so they can connect to their fans via Instagram. The media landscape is changing. They've got their own channel.
That's for their own gain. That's different. Okay. So on the back of being...
That's good for tennis. Okay. That's going over and above to promote the game. They're still promoting the game. They're just doing it by a different vehicle and they're having more choice and flexibility.
But how did the brand of Naomi Osaka happen? Through what?
Through the game.
Through the game.
Yeah.
So she owes the game.
Okay.
So I'll give you a quick stat.
I'll give
you a quick stat, Nico. I'll give you a quick stat.
Okay,
she's 23 years of age, right? She's a 4-time Grand Slam champion. She's number 2 in the world, okay? No one doubts her ability on the court. But the last 12 months, she's reportedly made $55 million. $5 million came of prize money. Where did the other $50 million come from?
Endorsements
from 25 brands she sponsors. Now, do you think she would have any of those if she wasn't number 2 in the...
Absolutely not.
So she's getting a $55 million pay packet and she can't handle a 10 to 20-minute press conference after a 2-hour match. You know, I think it comes down, you got to look the other way. I think Naomi's been let down by those people around her, whether it's her coach, her team, her media advisor. Like, what was the upside of her going on and did what she did in the couple of days?
She probably just should have just pulled out.
Massive error. Well, this was targeted, correct? I mean, I think she wanted to get maximum exposure. She's got the Olympics coming up in her home country in 2 months' time, and she's one of the faces of the Olympics if it goes ahead. This was planned. The outcome wasn't. She knew she's never been past the third round in the French Open, so she knows she can't win the tournament. It's in her head anyway. So she thought, all right, I'm going to make a statement here, and I'm going to see how much positive content I can get. I'm going to take on and see. I don't like doing media conferences after games, and this is the stance I'm going to take. It just went south for her, you know, and it came south in such a wave that all of a sudden now she can't handle the backlash because she's not used to it, and herself was let down by what her actions were as a professional tennis player, but also the team around her. And I think her media advisors and stuff have got a lot to answer for. And I'm not having to go at her personally. I'm just saying, as part of a pro athlete, if you put your hand up and you want to earn the money and get the media, she does a lot of media. She's on social media daily. That's her choice again. She doesn't have to do it. There's plenty of players that don't do any social media. So again, that's her choice. She wants to be in the public eye. She just doesn't want any of the negativity about it. So I just think as part of a pro, you need to learn all the game. And if she struggles with media conferences, look at Ash Barty. Look at the way you saw how she handled it, right? Her statement was that no question in a press conference has ever kept her awake at night. She goes, I love you guys. I love coming in here. That's a different attitude. Rafa Nadal, who came in and he said that he owes everything to the game of tennis. He doesn't have the lifestyle and everything. He went down a long list of what the tennis game's given to him, and he has respect for those who have fought before him to put him in the position, and Rafa Nadal will leave the game for those coming up behind him in a better position. Can Naomi Osaka say the same thing?
Well, I think she's paving a way, and she'd be a really good ambassador for her people and for a lot of women around the globe. But my final point is, and I don't want to just one up or do anything like that, but
you will.
No, well, just because you don't like the spotlight doesn't mean you're ungrateful. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't play. And so,
correct.
My opinion is, if we've got someone like Buddy Franklin, or we've got a tipper, or someone who doesn't want to do the media, but they're an absolute dominant force in the game. If we hear from them once a year, or someone like Cyril, I don't want to run him out of town. I don't want to lose that person to the game. And Naomi's proven how good she is.
Yeah.
I don't want to force her to do that. Yeah. But I guess we'll have to tend to this.
And I
don't know what's going on in her life.
Yeah.
She could have something very traumatic to happen.
Correct.
Her partner or whatever. There could be some big issues, and you only find out 6 months later down the track to figure out what's going to happen.
Correct. A few instances on that you don't, let's not jumble up a team sport to an individual sport. And this is part of the reason why individual sports get paid a bit more. Tennis is a lot more high profile. It's worldwide sport compared to AFL, which is in a bubble, and a team sport can take pressure off others. Correct? If you're having a bad time. On the individual tennis, you can't send in your coach, which maybe is an option down the track. Maybe if a player's come off a defeat and they're not in the mood, why can't you send in the coach to go the same
Change the
thing?
rules, yeah.
And maybe change will come with that. I'm not talking about the mental health status of it. I want to, our dialect here was more directing that if you agree to become a professional athlete in your sport, you must cover all the bases to give back to the sport. Now, I think that's where Naomi's maybe missed the point a bit, just in my opinion.
We're going to see some absolute fireworks because the AFL players are up in arms with the hubs, and the NRL players are at war with Peter V'landys too. So will there be a strike, or will there be some action? Daly Cherry Evans has come out swinging. He's representing the players on the Players Association, and it looks like all the media up in New South Wales are starting to toe the line behind Peter V'landys, which sort of makes me sick. All right, moving on. We'll talk a little bit about last week. We'll talk about the round 12 action this week. It's absolute mayhem with all the different venues. We'll have a look at Mark's all-Australian team. They don't play, not like the Origin, but everyone loves to have a little bit of a speculator on and recognise who the best players in the game are. It's a short week, so we'll tear apart his side. We've got NRL round 13 with top rope. It is absolutely treacherous stuff there. He's absolutely on fire. I think he's running at about 7.5% for the year. So with all the changes, with people in the Origin camps, he's the guy to look for a winner with this week in the NRL, and we'll have a look at the state of origin. We'll even get Top Ropes team. He fancies himself as a bit of a selector. He's probably a silent selector in the Queensland team by the look of his results, and dear, oh dear, lock of the week. Thank God we've banked a 10K for the Bulldozer for raise.org.au. Otherwise, we'd be very, very embarrassed. We'd have to stump up the cash ourselves. But lock of the week, oh my God, the Hawks cost me, and we're all back down to $200. Make sure this week you're betting with topsport.com.au. They're family owned and operated. They've done so for about 35 years. Bet with a bookmaker you can trust. Bet with the Merlins up at the Gold Coast, topsport.com.au. We'll take a break and we'll talk more AFL next. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast, a unique look into the world of sports betting from the eyes of professionals. I'm Scoot, you got MG here, and we've got Top Rope later on to talk rugby league. But first up, we're going to have a look at Mark's All-Australian team. So if we press pause now, this is the lineup that Mark would select as the best performed AFL players. So he's left out a couple of teams here. So St Kilda fans and North Melbourne, you may as well look away now because it's not good signs for you. And I was a little bit surprised. Being a Hawthorn supporter, I'm shocked that we've got a player in there. I think we're going insipidly. There'd be no Hawthorn player in my All-Australian team, but we've got the team up on screen now. But for those listening via the podcast world, we've got the backline. Starcevic, Andrews, a couple of Brisbane Lions players there. Stephen May's absolutely on fire. Halfback, we've got Mills, Wiedering, and Tommy Stewart. Sam Walsh, Tom Mitchell, McRae in his centre line. This is Mark's team and not mine. Petrarca, Walker, that's the big Texan. I pot him every week. Bontempelli. And then we've got Fritz, Harry Mackay or Mackay, Dustin Martin in the forward pocket. Interesting selection there. And then for the followers, we've got Gawn, Oliver, Ollie Wines. And the interchange, this has sort of got my goat up a little bit. Jack Darling. Looks like Tarzan plays like Jane. What's his name? Darcy Parish. I was going to say Corey Parish, the jockey there. Darcy Parish, Guthrie, and Lyons, who's absolutely on fire. And then you've named Bontempelli as the captain and the coach, Goodwin. Wow. The media wanted him sacked not long ago.
That's true.
Isn't this game funny?
Yes.
Hardwick, they wanted him sacked. Have a look at him now.
Yes.
Buckley's meant to be the best coach since sliced bread. Benny Dixon, Doodle Dixon, who isn't afraid to give his opinion. That'll be the last time he's hosting First Crack. He come out swinging. He said that Bucks is as intelligent as Clarkson. I'm not sure if he got that right, but a lot of what Ben Dixon said on First Crack was absolutely spot on. I loved his opinion. He wasn't scared to say how bad the game is going. So that will be the last time we see of Ben Dixon. Now, I'm going to just pick apart this All-Australian team that you've just put through. Tom Mitchell in the centres. I'll tell you what, Mark, how you've left out Darcy Parish is beyond me. I know that you've got family ties to Essendon, so you like to just rib the in-laws about the Bombers, but he was exceptional on the weekend, and he's an absolute spark. I can't believe you've got him on the bench.
Well, hang on a sec. I think last week I might have tipped him up as a smoky around the $40 to $1 Parish. So, and I haven't left him out. He's on the bench. So, don't stamp the foot too hard. Listen, it was close, I wouldn't have thought Mitchell was having such a great year, but his stats so far suggest otherwise. And he is a Brownlow medalist, so he's not exactly a surprise selection. Put him in the middle because that's where the only position he plays, and Parish has made the bench. But, slight alteration. If you're that disappointed by it, Parish might end up on the ground.
McCluggage, he's carried Brisbane with no Neil. You haven't even got him on the side.
Yeah, he's going okay, McCluggage. He's not tearing the world apart. He's certainly not having the year that he had last year. He's going good, but where do you want to place him? You like Walsh on the wing?
Oh, probably Walsh should move to the bench.
Yeah, okay.
Perhaps. I'd probably lean Tipper or Cozzy Pickett in the forward pocket over Martin. I don't know about these All-Australian teams. You just can't stack them with midfielders. You've got to play people in position. Toby Green, I thought, was really unlucky. I know he's out for a week or so, but I think the lion's share of the amount of matches that he's played, I think he's played 9 matches. I think what he's done in 9 matches is enough. And I tell you what, you've made an absolute whoopsie at centre forward here. Tex Walker. This is not a Super Rules team. Aaron Norton from the Bulldogs straightens them up, And he's probably won 2 or 3 games off his own boot for the Western Bulldogs.
Yeah, well, the All-Australian team's obviously very subjective, and you lay out 22 players, you're not going to get all 22 right. I think I've been in some competitions in the past, and I think the winner normally gets around 16, 17, which might surprise many people. But when you have your own crack at the All-Australian at the end of the year, you'd be surprised at how many you do miss. So it's very subjective. Listen, I just went with McKay, automatic full forward. Would I have him at full forward in my own All-Australian team? Probably not, but if you're leading the Coleman, you get in. Tex Walker, it was a toss-up between him and Darling. Darling's on the bench. I'd have Norton a few back right now, but obviously you rate him highly. And Dusty Martin, now if you're picking your All-Australian team and you want to leave Dusty out, then that's your loss. But he plays...
It's not last year's team, Mark, or the year before. You can't just pick on reputation.
Well,
and have a look at this. I'll tell you what.
Where's Dusty sitting in the order of the Brownlow medal at the moment?
He's probably in the top half a dozen. He rotates a lot through the midfield, though.
Correct. So he does play forward?
He does play some forward.
Okay, so forward pocket's not exactly a far stretch. I can't put him on the ball, and he deserves to be in there. So maybe he could have gone the bench, but I'm not leaving the greatest player out in the last 10 years, and he's going okay this year.
It's a funny one, isn't it? You've got Fritsch and McKay. I'd hate to see them in a grand final. They just want to snap the ball and they may go to water. At least if I put Norton and Bontempelli and Petrarca in my forward 50, at least I've got a couple of blokes that can kick a drop punt under pressure. Yeah. All right, enough of the Mickey Mouse stuff, enough of the fantasy football there. Let's have a look at round 12. It is an absolute mouthwater. You'll see the odds courtesy of topsport.com.au on the screen now. And we've got the Ds. The Ds have opened up 174 and 4.5 point favourites against Brisbane Bears, the big bad Lions up there at Giant Stadium. I tell you what, you've gone from Traeger Park in the NT in Alice Springs to absolute Mordor, Giant Stadium. There won't be any COVID out there. Hopefully a couple of people turn up. It'll be a good litmus test to see how many people actually like AFL. This is an absolute blockbuster. We see that over 50,000 tickets of the Dreamtime match, Richmond and Essendon, have already been sold in Perth. If they can't get 20,000 to this Melbourne-Brisbane game, it's an absolute stink.
Well, they won't. They won't get 20,000.
I think there was about 500 people at the Hawthorn game last week against Gold Coast Suns at the SCG.
I'm not sure what the balance came up, and I'm sure Melbourne said, no, we're not going to the Gabba to play this, which I understand totally from a Melbourne's point of view. But if they're worried about their finances, let's not hear them argue about that, because they could have gone to the Gabba and it would have been a sellout. So unless they're getting compensated by the AFL for making this move, I understand from Melbourne why you wouldn't want to go to the Gabba the way the ladder is at the moment. But let's not cry foul at some stage, Melbourne club, that our finances have been hurt, because they could have gone to the Gabba, I'm sure, and they would have been well remunerated for that. So interesting clash. Only come out last night that they decided to go to Giant Stadium. But I hope they get 10,000 there. I doubt it, but if people want to see a great game of AFL, I think they play it in the right way, both sides, very attacking. And hopefully the weather's good, which it looks like it will be. This will be a cracker. So it's first v third on the ladder. Melbourne have obviously had the slight hiccup on Adelaide 2 weeks ago. We're losing a point. Otherwise, they've got a clean sheet. They've beaten all the top sides around, and Brisbane's the last one. Brisbane have now won 7 in a row, so their form is
on the road too. Early in the season they had a horror draw. They're no fears on the road, these guys, and Lachie Neale back.
Yeah, Lachie Neale. Well,
will he need the run?
If he ticks off the boxes, he'll be back.
He's sort of the player that doesn't need the run, in my opinion, is he?
He's a pro's pro. Yeah. He'll probably come out and tear Melbourne a new one. Whether he's got the legs to see out the full game, but an 80%, 90% Neale's better than no Neale, and it just makes the midfield matchups unbelievable. You've got last year's Brownlow medalists, and you've got 4 or 5 in the top 10. At the moment in the current betting, all playing in the one match, all coming out of the midfield. Now, this match will be worth watching. From a betting point of view, the early markets kind of come out around the 4, Melbourne, which I think's about right. I think this will be a bit like last week with the Melbourne Bulldogs. I think the market will hold pretty true. It's a no-play game for this. I just think everyone can sit back and watch this. And if you like a side, then back it and cheer at home. But I know you're real keen on Melbourne. You've hit your wagon to Melbourne just of late. You don't mind the ladder leaders, but I'm hoping Brisbane sneak over the line here and make it 8 straight.
Interesting. I wouldn't say I've hitched my wagon to the D's, but I think the home ground advantage of the MCG might play heavily in their favour later in the year. But if COVID gets a hold of Melbourne, which it's every possibility, all of a sudden things might open up for Brisbane Lions. So who knows? Maybe... But they'd play the game at Perth, wouldn't they? The grand final this year, if COVID run right. And I'm just not sure who that suits.
Well, I think... I don't know how they do it, but I would say the home team, as long as say West Coast weren't in the grand final, Perth would have to be the front runner.
West Coast will not be in the grand final, Mark.
Well, I'm just stating the fact that if they weren't,
I'm not sure what their premiership odds. We'll look at it later, but
yeah,
they're dropping like flies.
No, I'm saying so. If West Coast were happen to make it through to the grand final, they probably wouldn't get a home grand final in Perth.
Maybe Adelaide.
I would think. Yeah, well, Port may not be in the grand final either. They've got options, and it's a long way down the track. But, yeah, things could fall Brisbane's way, and if they do, that's good news for those who are on.
What price could you take a couple of years ago? No grand final at the MCG 2 years in a row.
Will be no price. Wouldn't exist. The MCG have got it tied up, but, COVID struck, and it might strike a second time. So, we'll see that. It's a long way away.
Nice segue into Perth on Saturday night. We've got Essendon, my new team, against Mark's team, Richmond. He just can't drop off them. $1.49 the Tiglets, $2.70 the Dons, and the line is 13.5. Packed house. Good to see.
Dream time in Perth. And it's awesome that it will be a sellout, this one, no doubt. The Perth crowd, as you said, already 50,000 tickets are sold. Perth love their sport, and to see something that they can only travel to Melbourne for, the dream time, they'll put on a great show, and hopefully, and I think this will be a great game as well. The weather is a bit iffy at the moment, but hopefully the weather turns out well, and these two teams will put on a show. I have no doubt. The way Essendon play and Richmond like to attack as well. Again, the Friday night and Saturday night, if you've got nothing better to do, most people are in COVID, especially in Melbourne. We've got two good games to watch for sure. A couple of weeks ago, you might not have said this, but now Richmond have got a lot of their players back. Hopefully Edwards is back for Richmond this week. Essendon trucking well. They'll go in full of confidence. Essendon definitely have the advantage of winning over in Perth last week and staying there. Yeah, I think that's definitely to their advantage, where Richmond have had to move north and then will have to fly all the way over to Perth. That's got to be a little edge for them for sure. But this will be a good game. But just at the current line at the 13, unlike yourself, been trying to squeeze a bet out of Nico, we'll get there by the end of the week. That I'm slightly favouring Richmond. I just think with Cochin back in this lineup, I know I've told this for many years now, they're a different team with Cochin in. Doesn't matter the dominance he plays, they stand taller when Cochin's in their side, and you saw it again last week. When he returns, everyone grows around him, and I just think with Edwards coming back on top, for mine, 13.5's cheap, but it does look like Essendon might go their way in terms of the market betting, so there's no rush to back into Richmond, but I think they're the side of that price.
Well, I might as well back. I'll back the Bombers with you then for a bottle of goose.
All right, sweet.
I'll take 13.5.
13.5, bottle of goose. That sounds good. Might have to bet for Top Rope as well. He likes taking you on for the goose. We'll check with him later.
All right, if you want more of Mark's AFL action, check out AFL Stings in the Little Birdie shop. I think it's $17 for this week, and then it's $180 for the rest of the season, and then we'll reset the prices for the next run of 6 weeks, so you can just buy them in blocks. So check that stuff out. He does all the games, all the analysis, and it's a pretty beefy document. It's a few pages long. It's got a heap of stuff there. Our next segment is buy, hold, and sell, and that's where we look at the AFL futures, and then we've got the Premiership market on screen now, and the odds are courtesy of Top Sport. And the flag favourites are Brisbane Lions $5, the D's $5.50, Bulldogs $5.50, Tigers $6.50, $7, $7.50. The Eagles are out to $18, Sydney Swans $26, and my Bombers are $51. Bit stagnant up top. I'd like a little bit more opinion from the bookies. Similar theme all week. COVID chaos, but it doesn't look too far wrong with those. I think it's still a big gulf. I think Brisbane Demons and the Western Bulldogs are clear ahead of the rest of the pack, in my opinion.
He's dropped off Richmond. No, I just think, I think betting into the Premiership, unfortunately, at the moment with the year, it looks like the way it's panning out at the moment, someone's going to end up with an advantage at some stage. So the premiership betting's probably just a little trepidation when you're betting, because you don't want to bet one side and then all of a sudden the finals are played in Brisbane or Perth or something like that where advantage is one side. But I think they've just gone Brisbane favourite at the moment just on what happened last year, and they may play the winter through the north. It might help their draw, guaranteeing them a top 2 to 4 spot, Brisbane. Obviously, Melbourne and Bulldogs are going well. The bookies just aren't going to release Richmond. They've done too much damage in the last 4 years on them. And as you said, West Coast is starting to get out, Sydney a little bit. And if you like Essendon, $51. They haven't won a final in 6,000 days, Nico. So you'd be brave to back $51.
They're hungry. You need that hunger, and that is something I think Richmond don't quite have, and Geelong look a little bit lacklustre still. They just keep lowering themselves to other people's standards. So let's have a look at the Brownlow medal market, and Marcus Bontempelli, $4.60. Despite a loss last week, we've got Clayton Oliver. Mark's been all over him at the big price, $5.60. Petrarca also is another one that Mark's found, $6.25. Martin, $9.25. McRae, similar quote. McCluggage, 12. Wines, 12. Walsh, 14. Boak, 14. Darcy Parish has been on the move, 34 into $17. He's with Guthrie at 16. And again, there's sort of not much cream here, or is there? Any value? You've been big on Clayton Oliver for the last couple of weeks. Can you still back him if you've missed the boat? Is $5.60 still a price? Because the D's draw's okay, isn't it? They're still going to win a lot of games. They're going to finish top 4, but I guess so are the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think it's starting to shape out the way I would be having my current book anyway. Personally, I'd probably have Bont and Oliver probably about the same line of betting. It's just unusual, obviously, to see 2 in the top 3. You don't often see that in the betting at the moment. We've got Oliver and Petrarca. Petrarca's just gone off a couple of weeks. He's been playing good football, just in terms of getting the 3-2-1. He's just missed a couple in Oliver's match Gawn last week. I think Gawn will get the 3, Oliver will get the 2. And McRae's obviously going well with the Bont. Parish is obviously, I think he's the hot man at the moment. Don't be surprised if he's nearly nutted out 3 or 4 best on grounds in the last month. He's really cut his price. And for an each way, I think the only one so far that I've missed in my book at the moment is Ollie Wines. I did get a heads up about a month ago saying someone asking me how Ollie Wines was tracking. I didn't have him quite as high as what my associate did, and he's just gone on with the job. So I'm not saying Ollie Wines' value. He's just one I don't have as part of my book at the moment, who is going exceptionally well. I think he's nearly sitting inside the top 5 in the current count. Still the same lays for mine. Martin's finally getting out. He should be double figures at least for mine, Martin. And I still can't come to blokes like Walsh, Boak, Fife.
Yeah.
They're just miles unders.
You can't get them all, Marcos. You can't get them all. You had Darcy Parish sitting on the bench in your All-Australian team, so you can miss some, but you're in a really sweet spot with Petrarca and Clayton Oliver, and you even tipped up Bont at the start of the year, so you're all over this market, and it's definitely your wheelhouse. Look at the Coleman medal, Harry McKay, $1.95. Texas Walker, $6. We've been laying him, so we're in a good position there. Jackie Rewalt doesn't want to play for the rest of the year. Could be a lay at $7. If it's Hub Life, Jack Darling, $9. Cameron, $12. My man, Aaron Norton, he's not your man, $13. Josh J. Kennedy, $13. Ben King, the one that can kick, $15. Joshy Bruce, $17, and much, much better the rest. It's good to see Charlie Cameron starting to kick a few snags as well, and it's incredible that Brisbane's potent forward line are all massive, massive odds, so they're sharing the goals around, which is a very good sign, and there wasn't a heap of Brisbane players in Mark's All-Australian side. So are they the new Tigers? There's nothing, they're a bit workman like the Bears or the Lions. I think there's a lot to like about them.
I had 4 in the side, 4 Brisbane players in the All-Australian side.
You sure?
They weren't left out. Starcevic, Andrews, Lions, and... But listen, we lost a couple in the Coleman medal. Obviously, Lynch from Richmond, who's been a mainstay near the top.
He still looks sore, Harry, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
He copped another whack.
He did.
He copped another whack, and as soon as he went down, I took the 11.5 in play.
Too sharp.
and I was a bit sweaty for a little while, but as long the game just sort of panned out my way.
It's
but
kind of
he
funny.
bounced through it a bit, but these knocks have got to start adding up for him.
I know. He doesn't look good when he takes a knock, does he? It really stiffens him up, and
yeah.
it looks like he's almost going to faint. It's going to be a tough. I don't understand why the bookies aren't taking him on more. I know he keeps kicking a couple of goals. He's been holding his lead, but I can't imagine punters coming in around that even money mark. It's going to be a tough watch because one or two more bumps, might put him out for a bit. And it's not like he's kicking massive amount. He doesn't have a big lead. He's got plenty around. I still expect one or two players to jump out of the pack here. The big boys will still come. We're only halfway through the season.
Long way to go.
I'm happy to lay McKay at this stage at evens.
I just hope he's going for the final shot to seal the Coleman and he snaps it and he kicks it out in the full. That's all I want. I'm an absolute sicko. Speaking of sicko, I am an absolute sicko for the ponies, and I do all my form with puntingform.com.au. I'd be absolutely lost without it. They've got this new fandangled business called Bias and Lanes. So you can see the bias reports. Nick Ashman's all over it on Twitter, on his Sandown tweet there today, and he'll be using it again on Saturday. And they've taken over the Sectional Stars show, the puntingform.com.au boys. So they're absolutely airborne punting form. They've also got this tricky little jockey and trainer stats thing, so you can check out the new enhancements in their sectional pro form guide, so make sure you check that out. The boys from Bet Doctor all absolutely love punting form, so if you're betting the ponies, make sure you check them out. Up next, we've got NRL and Hall of Fame time with one and only Top Rope Tedeschi. Welcome back to the Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot. I've got the Kid MG. It's a unique look at the world of sports betting through the eyes of professionals. There's no more professional than Mr. Nicholas Tedeschi, who's joining us.
A professional narc, a professional troll. Don't know about a professional gambler, but we're here. Doing our best. Greatest game of all, kicking them.
Now, actually playing the game isn't your forte, Top Rope, but a lot of fans have wrote in. They haven't. But where did you play the game as a youth? Where was your position on the ground?
I was stuck out on a wing, not because I had any speed, but because I was slow and soft.
Well, that might make sense of why you're happy for the rules to pander to PVL, but
here we go.
I had to give you a little bit of a side swipe. I've shared my notes pre-show, which is unlike me. I like to just ambush you with one or two things, but let's start with a positive note. Let's talk Hall of Fame. We had Barney Curley, the swindler from the UK who died last week. It was a shame Barney couldn't be alive to join the Hall of Fame. Nothing peeves me more than the accolades after people die. It really gives me the shits. People put up all these statues. The bloke's dead. Tell people how good they are when they're in the flesh. If I die tomorrow, you blokes are all right.
I'll go the other way, Scooty. I think you should tell people how shit they are when they're alive, and don't start pandering to them. No one gave a damn about Kurt Cobain when he was still kicking, but all of a sudden he's deified after he's gone. Please,
Fair point.
You know what? If you're an ordinary fella, call them an ordinary fella to their face, and call them an ordinary fella in death. Same thing. Don't change your tone.
Bob Fulton?
Ordinary fella.
That's the male. Now, Hall of Fame this week. Hall of Fame this week. I'm going to nominate Racing Queensland. All of a sudden, they've gotten out of bed and they've realised that punters' lives matter. All of a sudden now in Queensland, banana bending territory, you can bet minimum bet laws from the get-go. Wow. I tell you what, that's another reason to move to Queensland. I tell you what, after this week in lockdown hell, I'm one further step out of the door to moving to the great state of Queensland. Top Rope, who have you got for Hall of Fame?
Well, just confirming that Racing Queensland's no longer in on the rules. Is that correct? The stewards are no longer in on the job? Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. So maybe another positive for Racing Queensland. Big must have changed up there. Stewards all above board. I find it very hard to go past Xander Schauffele this week, Scooty. Playing some big money matches with, of course, the great Phil Mickelson, one-time Hall of Famer, soon to be two-time Hall of Famer. And such a large amount, Xander won't actually reveal the amount he's playing for. Got to be a Hall of Famer, doesn't it?
Tell you what, I don't know if you guys have been to San Diego, but the prospect of living in San Diego, about to, you got all the good golf courses down there. Torrey Pines is down there.
Yeah.
imagine just playing just side action with those guys. I'm tipping Jordan will fly in for a bit of a hustle. It'd just be best. It'd be better than the tour itself.
Yeah, it'd be good watching just to walk around with a couple of beers in a cart.
Oh.
I think.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, the old money games would be 1,000 times better than watching the tour. Some real stuff up for grabs, and some of the sledging that would go on. Just some of the stories you read about these blokes on the money games. There's a good movie out there. Well, I say good, it's okay. About I think it's called it's about the founding days of golf in Scotland, and how it essentially started was like there were towns would send their best player and there'd be a match. So they'd get train rides in. There'd just be this big crowd just following two blokes on a course, just playing a match. Just how good would that be? The punching was through the roof. That's all you want.
Side action.
Set them up and there'd be some knobbling, there'd be some rorts.
Be like two up
anyone
down
who's backing that milk drinker Xander to beat Phil, like Xander must be in a lot. Xander might have blown all his PGA wings if he's playing Phil in a money match.
He can run second, can't he, Xander? He seems to be always found by the modelers too. Now, speaking of cash, Nico Hines, he's on the move from the Storm. The Fox has already gone to the Bulldogs. Where's he headed, Nico?
He's off to the Sharks. Now, how's this for a deal? He's signed with the Sharks, 3-year deal, $1.8 million, $600 large a year. North Queensland Cowboys have taken Sharks reject Chad Townsend, only 15 years older, about 1,000 times worse, $800,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
So, well done to the Sharks. They've upgraded significantly. Poor old Cowboys, not so much.
600 sounds cheap for Nico Hines,
I
isn't
thought so as
The
well.
new grouse.
What would he have been on the Storm if he just like signed his next contract? What do you reckon their ceiling would have been? Half of that, 400,
250, 300. Yeah, half that. Remember, it would have struggled to get to 400 just with the amount of talent they've got on their side.
Okay.
And he hasn't really got a position right in their full strength side, so it would have been half of him. And he was offered more. I believe he was offered more by the Warriors, but he wanted to play in the Crayfish skip and just wants to be a good player, so wants a starting spot. So, well done. He'll play 5'8" next year. William Kennedy will play fullback, so good luck to him. I really hope he does well because he's a testament to Bellamy. He's a testament to the Storm system. I hope he's not one of those players who just fails miserably outside it.
It's a shame that he didn't turn up alongside the Fox at your Bulldogs. Top rep.
Yeah, no, we were too stupid to get him. We were too stupid. They're probably waiting to pay Matt Moylan $1 million a year or give Anthony Milford $2 million a year. That's how it goes.
Oh, the other big news in Rugby League land is the player coup. DCE, Daly Cherry Evans, leading the charge as president of the Rugby League Players Association. I'll just read a little bit of a quote. I can't remember. I think it's from Fox News. People can assume all they want. I'm just voicing the concerns of the broader playing group. That's all I'm doing. When asked if players are frustrated, he said, yeah, why? There's been a lack of consultation for so long. I know that Benji's come out and Benji's also said that they weren't consulted and they've never been in the room together to make all these decisions. There's talk that Cook and DCE made the rules and it's just an absolute mess. And PVL's got his cheerleading press. Probably got them all under his thumb. The only probably person that they haven't got under his thumb is Andrew Webster, who wrote an absolute cracking article a couple of days ago. Make sure you check out Little Birdie TV on Twitter if you've missed that one. But the other one, an immortal has come out, Andrew Johns, and this was in Forbes last week, and he might be the biggest name in the game. And he said that the new enforcement might decide who wins a grand final or an Origin. If this is going to continue and if someone loses an Origin series or a grand final for this, I don't know what we want this game to be. They've made their bed. The New South Wales legend and common man, Andrew Johns, said, top rope, address these concerns.
Was this Joey in a professional capacity or Joey on his way back from church bar sitting in the gutter at 7 in the morning? Unclear. Look, the RLPA are the weakest union in this side of rugby union. There is nothing else going on with them. They are Paul Kent absolutely schooled Clint Newton over that. Clint Newton hasn't even come out and said what he wants. He doesn't represent the players. It's pretty clear that Daly Cherry Evans doesn't represent the players. And then if every single player was united and adamant against PVL, PVL is going nowhere. And Ray Hadley said as much on NRL 360 last night. He is 100% correct. PVL will stay as long as he wants to stay. PBL runs this show. PBL saved the game last year, and PBL is saving play. Come in this week, Steve Mortimer, one of the greats of the game, is suffering from Alzheimer's at the age of 64, blaming it on the game of rugby league. Plenty of other players who we don't want to put their name to it are suffering from similar head injuries. It's the right thing to do. And also, these aren't new rules. I'm sick of these, we need to be consulting new rules. You know what? Players stop hitting other players in the head. It's always been the rule. Not that hard.
Top Rope, I just want to do a bit of a fact check. What code went under last year? We hear all this praise for PVL. He saved this, he saved that. Or you know what? Gill saved this. And Rugby Union, I'm surprised they even play the game still. I've never heard about it, but that's still... Well, I had to check.
They have died.
I had to check for the show. Even they survived. So all this nonsense about PVL save the game, I tell you what, that is the longest bow ever. Someone had to do the job.
I'm about to draw a longer bow. Because PVL not only saved rugby league, he saved AFL and saved rugby union too by getting sport back in the country. PVL has saved every sport.
Jeez.
The Kool-Aid.
How much does he get paid by PVL?
Hey?
This is crazy. I'm surprised he doesn't have a picture in the background of him and PVL.
There's
hugging.
a shrine. If you face the camera the other way, there's a little shrine that he genuflect every night, and he prays his little socks off.
It's crazy.
Oh, let's have a look at Top Rope's State of Origin team. He may be a selector. He may be like a sneaky little Origin selector, and I tell you what, he was up and about on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. He said, I need an 11.5-point start, favourite my New South Wales team versus the official team, and this and that, and he's
versus Gus's team.
Oh, Gus's team. Sorry, Gus's team. Well, you can't probably be shot for that, but the Queensland team only announced by squad has caused an absolute uproar. It's ruined his week.
Name a goddamn team. It's not that hard. Sports are just name the team. Some of us are very busy people. We just want to know who's playing this weekend and who's not. All of a sudden there's confusion. Is Reid Marnie playing for the Eels this week? Will AJ Brimson play for the Titans? And will have a huge impact on the line. Just tell us who's in the squad. It's absolutely ridiculous. Also gives Queensland a massive advantage for 4 days, not knowing who New South Wales not knowing who they're preparing for. Absolutely ridiculous.
I like the tactics. Why would you give your opposition a one-up if you don't have to? Let's have a look. We'll get the graphic up on the screen now. And I tell you what, you've only got 3 differences in the New South Wales squads. It's pretty simple stuff in the backs. Speak for themselves. You've got Cody Walker over Jerome Luai.
Yep. I don't think Origin's going to suit Luai. I think he plays with a lot of space. Depends on how we referee, but I think Cody Walker is got a bit of experience, bigger body, better player. So I would have Cody Walker there for sure.
And what about Jake Trbojevic? What's he ever done to you?
Jake Trbojevic has played maybe 2 good games in the last 24 months. He's slow, and also he's not a prop. The one area of strength New South Wales have is an abundance of props. So why people like Regan Campbell-Gillard sitting on the sideline? And, all of a sudden, Jake Trbojevic just makes absolutely no sense. Small, slow, hopeless.
And the other player you've left out, Jack White. Didn't he win the Daily M last year?
I'm the Daily M going on an absolute buster this year at the Raiders. It was a close call. I can understand why they picked White, and he's got a little bit of versatility there, so not overly opposed to that on the bench. I think Burton offers a bit more in terms of can play every position in the back line, but can also probably bomb at hook or something that Jack Whiten can't do. But not really super opposed to the Whiten selection. He's just been dreadfully out of form this year for Canberra, as all the Raiders have been.
And the next one we've got up is the Queensland. We got Top Rope's team, and then the official. Well, we've turned it into a team. But is there anyone out of position there, Top Rope? It looks very bland. You said you're a busy man. The Dogs ate your homework, so you've just copied theirs, or vice versa.
To be fair to Queensland, they don't have that many players to pick from at the moment. So, Brimson, so Callum Ponga will not play. He looks like he's 95% out. So it looks like Brimson will go to fullback, and probably Joel Fingowie will come onto the bench. So, which is fine. I think Queensland have named probably the best side they can.
And that may explain the market move. Let's have a look at the early look of the State of Origin match. Game 1 up at Townsville. That's a great story, I think, for rugby league in Australia. If it's not here in Melbourne, give Townsville a go. The crowd are absolutely ruckus, so let them just absolutely rip the joint down. I love that setup. At New South Wales, $1.57, $2.40 Queensland up there at Countryback Stadium, and the line's been fascinating. 4.5 to 2.5 and 3.5, back now to a flat 4, and that's probably off the back of Ponga's news, is it, Top Rope?
Yeah, that'll be on the back of Ponga's news. I think, to be honest, I think Brims is a pretty like replacement with Ponga. I will be very, very keen to take Queensland +4, so I'll be jumping in early on that one. It's been great up there in Townsville. It's been fair. What about the 1983 quality entertainment? The twirling batons, the men on stilts. It's come right out of the 80s. Tina Turner impersonator setting off fireworks inside that forced the evacuation of the Queensland accommodation. Hey, this is classic rugby league. I think every Origin should be played in Townsville.
Exactly. They can do a good beer up there as well. And the line, they're all contentious. Sorry, the total, 42 flat. That is the biggest I've seen in Origin history, I think.
A couple of years ago, they were floating around the 30.5. I think one may have even jumped 29.5. So, big line. I haven't really got a strong view on that yet. My inclination, based on everything I've seen this year, is to go over that number. But, yeah, it is Origin. So I'll need to have a good hard look at myself to get that one over the line.
You just said it is Origin. Does that mean that the crackdown's going to stay, or are they going to loosen the rules up a bit?
The crackdown seemed to have a few rules loosened last weekend, so that was the concern. My problem's not with the crackdown. My problem is the inconsistent application of it. So, there were games where players were getting hit square in the head. Jack Hetherington, one of the biggest recidivists in rugby league history, comes out and gets penalised twice in the first 2 minutes for head-eye tackle, stays on the field, and other blokes getting sent for barely touching a fella. So, let's see how this one's refereed. Jared Sutton, most experienced ref, bit of a stickler for the rules. We'll see. We'll see.
All right, we might take a little bit of a break, and we'll come back with round 13 and our infamous lock of the week segment. But if you're having a bet this weekend or next Wednesday night for State of Origin, make sure you check out topsport.com.au. They bet the biggest limits. They will let you on for an absolute hatful of money there. Top Rope last week, he bet half a house or a house on the Storm last week, and now he's got 2 houses.
No, had two houses. Now probably don't even run the first one up the rest of the weekend played out.
Oh, Storm are just auto bet they're just every week. We say it every week, don't they? They're starting to lose all their good players though, with the Fox and Nico Hines. But we'll take a break. We're not going to preview the Storm game this week. They're just saying they're another auto bet, and we'll look at 2 other matches that are a change. We'll keep it fresh. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot. I've got Kid MG, and we've got Top Rope, and it's time to talk Rugby League Round 13. Very unclear for me. I don't know who's playing, who's not playing, where they're playing. But the first game we're going to look at is Thursday night football at Jubilee Stadium. We've got St George Dragons, very short here, $1.45. Brisbane Broncos, $2.75. The line, 6.5. A little bit of a nibble for the minus, which concerns me. And the total there is 47.5. Top Rope. Who's going to win the opener here, and why?
Illawarra come out and score the first 2 tries. It's all over. They'll win by 40. But Broncos tend to bounce back off a bad defensive performance. Covered 6-7 off conceding 30. Dragons have a horrendous record as a short price favourite. They lose them off the stick. They lose them. So the line is a little bit of interest, but I reckon just for a bit of value, I'd be happy to have a throw at the sum for the Broncos here at the 275, 280.
Not too many injuries out with the Queensland team?
They've lost 2. They've lost Payne Haas and they've lost Xavier Coates, but they get a host of players back. Tyson Gamble, Matt Lodge from suspension, Alex Clem, Jordan Ricky from injury. So they're arguably square for their team this week. So Dragons get a few back as well. Duffy, Ravaloa, but there's 2 weeks in to Origin. So, I don't mind them at all. Broncos. Not too hardly done by.
And 6.5 is a key number there. If you're less confident, the 6.5 at 195 looks tasty for me. Let's have a look at the other match Friday night at Leichhardt over West Tigers. It's now or never. Yeah, $1.50 the Panthers, $2.60 West Tigers, and it's a flat 6 there. Money for the plus, and the total there is 46.5. Can the Panthers be brought undone here?
Really hard game to assess. Penrith have got 7 players out on Origin duty, which makes it really difficult. Tigers likely only have 1 in Joffrey Garrett. He's not even locked into the squad yet, so they may have no players out. Still lean towards the minus. Penrith have a very good side, so they've got a lot of Kiwis in their side. Kick out, James Fisher-Harris, Matt Eisenberg make a pretty good pack. Matt Burton goes into the halves. Dylan Edwards returns at fullback. Stephen Crichton still got a very good side. Lean towards the minus. Penrith have a very good record against the Tigers, but not getting too excited about this game. Too many out for the Panthers.
You've nearly convinced me, Penrith. Well, they're like the Storm. They're just an auto bet every week. 7 players is substantial, but the depth, and you see it in the AFL ranks as well. The top 3 sides are just absolutely panels above the bottom cellar dwellers. And I tell you what, West Tigers, you don't want to go to war with them, do you, Top Rope?
The West Tigers, well, they're about to sign Dallin McKinney-Zelezniak, one of the worst Canterbury players of all time, and they're about to take him off our hands soon. So if we can make it this week, I'll be all over the Panthers.
And they're just absolutely notorious, the Panthers, for just letting talent just stroll out the door. They are a very average conveyance. And apologies, I've got a couple of mates who barrack for the West Tigers, so it's the truth. They know it, and they're steeled enough to hear it. But it's now or never for the Tigers. But I won't be backing them, that's for sure. Something else that we're sucking at the moment is lock of the week. We all just need to hang our heads in shame. We've got to get to the magical $5,000 mark for raise.org.au. The Bulldozer saved us with a $10K donation. So we're on the board, but we need to get to that magical $15K for the year. But last week, I'll tell you what, I absolutely blitzed with the Bombers against the West Coast Eagles, but my Hawks just absolutely let me down. I went for the absolute party trick, $200 at $11.90, Essendon into Hawthorn. And Hawthorn won't win a game now until round 21 when they face Collingwood, and we're no good thing there. So I've jumped all aboard the Bombers, and I'm going to back them again this week for my lock of the week. I'm going to take the Bombers into Carlton to beat the West Coast Eagles again. And then I'm going to take the Western Bulldogs to beat Freo, and I'm going to have 200 at 670. I'm all about the Bombers. Don't shake your head, Mark. You got the Bombers. You weren't on the Bombers last week. I kept backing him in play. 750. I took another chirpy mate that was in the office. I got him. I had 50 with him. Our mate in the know with Snow, who you know off the racing show. He poked his head in the Little Birdie office last Saturday night. I said, mate, I'll teach you a lesson. Here's 50 on the outside dog. Do not lay outside dogs in play.
Yep.
Absolutely taught him a lesson about football.
Yeah, it was an expensive couple of beers for him, wasn't it?
Wasn't it?
Called by for a free pizza and a couple of beers, and ended up doing his ass on the Essendon. So yeah,
it was at a production meeting. That's why I was here.
It was funny for those not involved. Top Rope, that's for sure.
Oh, tremendous stuff. I love hearing that story. Almost Hall of Fame worthy.
Now, Top Rope, it's a very, 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 very lean week.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for charity here? Is there a bit of flair, a bit of Ric Flair you got for us? $200.
Yeah, I'm going to go Melbourne Storm. First to 40 this week. First to 40.
Gee, you were stiff last week.
35.
First to 50. You were fucking robbed.
I was robbed. They played the worst game of the year, the Storm. They still put 40 up, so I was very stiff. We could go a little Larry this week. What's the 50 out? Oh, gee, I don't know. I just want to get on the board. I'm just humiliated at the moment.
First to 40, 235.
First to 40. We'll go 40. Yeah, we'll go 40. 40. First to 40.
So you're just going to have 200 on that?
200 on that.
Well, that's fair enough. It's his sweet spot.
Brick by brick. We've got another 11 weeks.
Storm just keep
12 weeks
every week. Yeah, that's right.
MG, who's your lock of the week?
Well,
it's getting embarrassing, this segment.
Yeah,
we might have to exit soon.
Only 6 games to choose from, so it does narrow the focus a little. So I'm just going to try and play a straight bat and get them over.
Tigers.
Tigers against the Bombers. So one of us will be alive in that game, Top Rope. So that's the upside. Just going to go head to head at $3, and the treble is going to be Richmond, Adelaide, and the Bulldogs.
Sure. When's the big reveal come out, Scooty, that we actually recorded all this in March, and I'm just tipping the Storm, and MG's just tipping Richmond every week.
Oh, it's so embarrassing.
I know who's going better.
I feel that I've handled this segment quite well since I came into it, but I just haven't had luck.
Yeah, we're still on the same point.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
We'll get there.
In my mind, I'm profitable, but I'm clearly not.
I should have had this job done. Melbourne haven't lost a game, and they lost by 1 point to Adelaide. I mean, give me a spell.
It's just sick, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get off and running this weekend for sure. I'm confident this week. So the bye weeks, we'll get them going through the bye weeks, and we'll be able to flatten out a result. All
right, Top Rope, make sure you spend your credits on this round of Rugby League wisely so you can put your feet up next Wednesday night and enjoy the Origin, enjoy the spectacle that it may become. It might just lose all lustre. I can't wait for that Thursday morning headline. Has PVL killed Origin? Has he killed Rugby League? What is it? Bunker blunder ends in Origin heartache for one of the sides. I can't wait for the controversy. Isn't it funny? They finally tidied up all the controversy off the field, and now it's fucking on the field. Yeah. NRL. Yeah. Who would have thought this would happen?
It's all drama. It's all the narrative. It's the game. It's the greatest drama since days of our lives. That's just rugby league everywhere.
Have a great weekend, Top Rope.
You too, guys.
See you, Top Rope.
All right, feels like we've been here for an eternity. Been a blockbuster show. It's going to be a fantastic betting week. There's so much to bet on. French Open's up and going. Next week we'll have Ace on. Yep. We might start to have a look at some basketball. We might have a special guest on next week's Little Birdie podcast.
Next week's show might be a double episode the way we're heading.
Yeah, it might go for 4 hours. We'll trim up a couple of segments, but it's going to be an absolute beauty. Good luck on the punt this week. MG, can't wait to see what happens with the D's and the Brisbane Lions.
As long as Richmond get over Essendon, I'll be happy with you.
I'll tell you what, I'll just be drinking Goose for a month.
All right.
I'll be happy to be locked down. I'll be sedated heavily on Grey Goose after the Bombers, rightfully, I think they'll only sneak into the 8. Their percentage is not too bad, 106%.
Yeah, going very well, yep.
Make sure you check us out on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, our YouTube channel at Little Birdie TV, on Twitter. And get our emails. There's free tips galore in there. So let us help you bash our bookie. And that's Top Sport. Thanks for Top Sport and Punting Form support. Couldn't do the show without you. See you next week.